Let me go to another area, and that's the area that we talked about at the time that we had our visit, which I very much appreciated, and that is with regard to the Wichita Operation Rescue case. And the decision to file a brief in the Wichita Operation Rescue case, the Women's Health Care Services versus Operation Rescue. As we understand, historically, the federal government has protected the individual rights, and when protesters attempted to prevent the black Americans from attending newly integrated schools by blocking the students' access, the federal government stepped in to ensure the students' safe entry. And that was done at a time when there were many that were really, out of sincere belief, believed that the law was wrong during that time. There wasn't really a question whether they believed it was right or wrong. Still, the Justice Department acted. But in this case, the United States Justice Department reached out to the district court in Kansas and entered the dispute on the side of the lawbreakers. It weighed in with those who would forcibly deny a woman federal constitutional right to abortion. And it, as far as I'm concerned, poured gasoline on an already volatile situation by making it appear that the government supported the clearly unlawful acts of Operation Rescue. The government had already stated its position in a brief before the Supreme Court, defended in both cases the same entity. Operation Rescue was even represented by the same attorney, so there's no reason to believe the judge in Kansas would not be appraised of the pending Supreme Court case. Why did the government feel it necessary to sort of fan the flames in Wichita and to argue that Operation Rescue should be freed from the court's order prohibiting its illegal activities?
Well, thank you, Senator. This gives me the opportunity to describe what happened, because I think it has been mischaracterized largely, and people drew the wrong conclusions from the way it was publicly presented. And in describing it, I'd like to emphasize 3 points. First, this was not viewed as an abortion issue in the department. It was viewed as a issue of jurisdiction and the reach of the so-called Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. Second is that the department did not side with the demonstrators. On the contrary, we condemn those who break the law and who violate other people's legal rights. And third, that this was not a gratuitous action by the department where we reached out and tried to stir up an issue. On the contrary, we felt that circumstances came about that really drew us into it, and we tried in good faith to deal with it in a lawful way as we understood it. The first point that I think bears emphasis is that Operation Rescue demonstrators who block abortion clinics are lawbreakers. They are treading on other people's legal rights. I do not support or endorse or sympathize with those tactics. As the President said, everybody has an obligation to obey the law, and as a government official, my responsibility is to enforce the law and to protect people's rights. The issue in Wichita was not whether those demonstrators should be dealt with. The issue in Wichita was which statute should be used to deal with them, which law enforcement agency should be used, and what court system should be used to deal with the demonstrators. And we believe that the applicable statutes were local, and that the local police should be the law enforcement agency, and that the local courts could deal with it. And this has been, in fact, in city after city around the country, that is how it has been handled locally. In Wichita, there was an attempt to federalize the issue. The clinics went to federal court claiming that there was a violation of the Ku Klux Klan Act and seeking the intervention of federal marshals to enforce their rights of access. Now, before Wichita, I learned at the time, I hadn't really focused on it before until the Wichita matter came up to me. But before Wichita, as you mentioned, this same effort had been made to federalize this issue, and that was in the Washington, D.C. area. And that had been litigated up to the Supreme Court, and 3 to 4 months before Wichita, the department had filed a brief in the Bray case in the Supreme Court, saying that the Ku Klux Klan Act did not give federal jurisdiction in these kinds of matters, that it required a class-based animus, certainly racial and possibly sexual class-based animus, but that was the limit of the jurisdiction under the Ku Klux Klan Act. So that was a position we had already taken by the time Wichita arose. We had the additional situation where the district court judge in Wichita bought into the Ku Klux Klan Act theory. He issued a very broad injunction, sweeping injunction that had very stiff as a condition of demonstrating, imposed I forgot what the term is now. But anyway, the demonstrators had to pay in substantial monies as a condition of demonstrating. That concerned us. And then the order itself, the injunction itself, had very detailed instructions to the marshals about how to enforce the order. The judge started holding press conferences and made statements, at least they reported to me, about filling the jails, statements hostile to the elected officials, and also indicating that the Department of Justice fully supported his position. A number of components expressed concern about this state of affairs, and we had wide consultations within the department, and it was decided that the best way to proceed, where we had already taken the position that the marshals did not have the jurisdiction to go in and do the things that they were now being told to do by the district court judge, was have the marshals obey the judge, have them obey the law, and call on everyone to obey the law, and then file an amicus with the court where we submitted the Bray brief, not re-arguing the matter, just giving the judge a copy of the Bray brief to make it clear what our legal position was, but at the same time telling everyone to follow the judge's order. And I think for a period of time it helped diffuse the situation out there and focus the attention on the courts and the legal process where it should be, rather than on the streets. But several days after that action, it appeared to me that other elements in Operation Rescue rekindled it and violated the law. They were arrested by, most of the arrests were by local police, but the marshals made the arrests, and I believe a number of them are being prosecuted for interfering with U.S. Marshals. But it was a legal position about the jurisdiction under the Ku Klux Klan Act, as I said, and we felt it was the proper thing to do given the earlier position we had taken.